So have you heard about this NotebookLM thing? Seems like everyone's talking about it, and for good reason, right? Like, imagine being able to bottle up that feeling you get when you're really hooked on a good podcast, that aha moment, and just, I don't know, make an app out of it.
Yeah, it's definitely got people's attention, that's for sure. I think what's got everyone so intrigued is how you can take, well, pretty much any document, and I mean any document, and make it into this whole audio experience, almost like a podcast, right?
And we're not just talking about your run-of-the-mill text-to-speech here, are we?
No, not at all. This is where things get really, I don't know, next level, NotebookLM uses AI, and this is the cool part, to really break down a document. And then get this, it generates a whole podcast with these AI hosts that actually discuss the information just like what we're doing now, kind of meta, right?
So it's definitely more than just reading the words on the page. But are the voices, realistic?
That's the thing. They are surprisingly so. They're using Google's latest AI technology, all the fancy stuff, advanced voice models, to make the listening experience feel, well, shockingly natural and engaging. And the real secret sauce here, I think, is this thing they're calling a content studio.
Content studio?
Yeah, it's still kind of under wraps. Google likes to keep some things secret. But basically, it's like the brains behind the whole operation, helping to structure all that info into a proper podcast format, complete with, get this, back and forth dialogue between the AI hosts. Like, they actually sound like they're having a conversation.
I have to admit, when I first heard about all this, I was a bit skeptical, I'm not going to lie. But then I actually listened to a sample, and it wasn't just the voices that got me. It was I don't know if I can explain it, the feeling. Like, it actually felt engaging, more personal, like I was part of the conversation.
Right. And that's the power of audio, isn't it? It's got this way of making you feel connected emotionally in a way that just reading text sometimes can't quite do. And that's what NotebookLM seems to be tapping into, I think. It's using, like, conversational AI to capture those little nuances of, how we actually talk to each other. Like, the AI hosts will, throw in a little humor here and there, change up their tone, even pause for effect, just like a real conversation.
Are you saying it's so good people might not even realize they're listening to AI?
Exactly. In fact, the product lead for NotebookLM, I think it was on a podcast actually, was saying that, get this, her husband listened to an AI-generated podcast and had absolutely no idea it wasn't a real show with, human hosts. He just thought it was like this long-running podcast about, well, I don't know, nothing in particular really, which I thought was kind of hilarious.
That's amazing. And also a little unsettling. But hey, it speaks to just how far this whole technology has come. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I've been staring at some dense document, the kind, and just felt this wave of dread wash over me.
Yeah.
This could be huge for, like, how we deal with information overload, especially for people like me who learn better by listening.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about, like, making those tough reads more, palatable. It's like, when you're faced with one of those super dense research papers, the kind that just makes your eyes glaze over, NotebookLM, imagine this, it can actually break the whole thing down for you, highlights the key findings, walks you through all those complicated methodologies, like, it's no big deal.
So it's like having, what are those things called, Cliff's Notes, but for, like, academics?
Yeah, kind of, right. Yeah. But it's even, I don't know, more than that, I guess. Because the AI hosts, they're not just summarizing, they're actually, like, engaging with the material. They might debate about what the research really means, point out if there are any holes in the arguments, or even connect it to other studies that have been done. Pretty wild.
Whoa, so it's like having your own little personal study group analyzing everything right along with you. I actually, this is kind of funny, I decided to try it out with something a little different, my mom's autobiography.
Your mom's autobiography?
Yeah, I turned the whole thing into a podcast, for our family.
Oh, wow. What was that like?
It was actually a lot more emotional than I thought it would be. Hearing her life story like that, even narrated by AI, it just added this whole other layer, And the best part was NotebookLM also made this whole study guide to go along with it, with timestamps and all the important takeaways. We're actually planning to go through it at our next family dinner.
That's amazing. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's those unexpected connections that this tech can spark. And that's just one example, right? The possibilities are, like, endless.
I know, right? Seems like people are using it for everything these days. Turning resumes into, like, confidence boosters, prepping for big meetings, even just getting through their reading list without, losing their minds.
It's true. I even heard about this one company. They were so gung-ho about NotebookLM, they actually wanted to make it officially, like, sanctioned, for their whole team to use it with their work emails. Talk about a ringing endorsement.
Wow, that's wild. But it makes you wonder, where did this whole thing even come from? It's like one day it's not there, the next day, boom, everyone's talking about it.
Well, it all started, actually, this kind of experiment, believe it or not, inside Google Labs.
Yeah.
It's this newer, more experimental team they have over there at Google, pushing the boundaries and all that.
Okay, so that explains the whole like startup vibe it has, all the constant updates, that huge Discord community they've got going strong. It feels very, I don't know, agile, user-focused.
Totally. And the team has actually talked about how they're really prioritizing user feedback, embracing that whole rapid iteration cycle. And the Discord thing is interesting. Apparently using it for community engagement. That was a bit of a, let's say, eyebrow raiser within Google.
I bet. So what's next? Any hints about where they're taking NotebookLM in the future?
Well, a mobile app is definitely on the horizon, which makes sense, right? Make it even more accessible. But they've also dropped some hints about, get this, adding in interactive elements. Like, imagine being able to pause the AI hosts, mid-explanation, to ask a question or dive deeper into a specific point.
Whoa, hold on. Like, you're listening to this complex thing and you can just be like, hold up, explain that again, but like slower this time.
Exactly. They're really putting a lot of thought into making the whole experience, even down to the controls, feel super intuitive almost, like they said magical. But the really mind-blowing stuff, the long-term vision, that's what gets really interesting. They've actually said they're thinking about creating this AI editor, right? And get this, it allows for, get ready for it, any input and any output.
Wait, back up a second. Any input and any output, what does that even mean in, like, plain English?
Okay, so picture this. You take this conversation we're having right now, this podcast, right?
Yeah.
And you feed it into this AI editor thing. It could then turn it into, I don't know, a blog post, a series of tweets, heck, even a children's book if you wanted it to. The possibilities are kind of limitless.
So instead of us always having to adapt to, like, how information is thrown at us, we get to choose how we want to consume it. Audio, text, video, whatever.
Sure.
Talk about a game changer, especially when it comes to learning and accessibility and all that.
100%. It puts the power back in the hands of the user, allowing them to customize how they want to learn, how they want to engage with information. It's the whole new world, really.
It really is, and it's pretty exciting to think about, honestly. I mean, who would have thought we'd come this far? From, like, those robotic text-to-speech voices to AI that can actually understand, break down, and even remix information in ways we never even dreamed of. Pretty mind-blowing, if you ask me.
It certainly makes you wonder what other amazing breakthroughs are just around the corner, right?
Well said. And on that note, we're just about out of time for today's deep dive into the world of NotebookLM. But before we go, just remember, this isn't just about some shiny new piece of tech. This is about the future of how we learn, how we work, how we connect with the world around us. And that, my friends, is something worth paying attention to. Until next time, stay curious.